Why did God allow the abuse in my home? All my life, it was why? Um, a cousin moved in with us, and when he moved in, there was some form of human contact. Um, I had somebody to talk to, someone who wanted to play dolls with me, someone who took me and my brother and sister to the store and bought us candy. And he only did that to gain my trust. And at 8, he started molesting me. While he's molesting me, he's saying, if I say anything to anyone, my father would kill my mom. And at that time, only being 8 years old, I had to protect my mom. I had to protect my brother and my sister. So every time I labeled him the boogeyman, because to me, he was the boogeyman. I would take my brother and sister and I would hide them in a closet and I would tell them, shh, if you say anything, the boogeyman is going to come and get you. And I had to scare them so they wouldn't get hurt. And I would walk in the attic, and there we go again, commence with the molestation. Um, that went on for some time, and I was happy to be in the bathroom when my dad walked in on his crutches. And my nickname, he always called me Big Red, which I hated. But he walked in and he was singing to himself, and he happened to look down. He was like, Big Red. And my eyes just got huge because in my mind, he was going to kill my mom. Um, he seen me trying to wipe the blood up. He dropped his crutches. He ran up them stairs, and all I heard was a lot of screaming and yelling. And then I heard a gunshot. I seen my cousin run out the door, down the stairs and out the door, and I didn't see him until years later at my father's funeral. But in between that time, my dad went to prison for murdering a man over another woman, and my mom, she continued to work herself to the bone to take care of us and remarrying and all that. But I had a secret. I had things going on within me that I didn't understand. I went to Sunday school and it was like God protects the little children. And well, in my mind, it started to frame there was no God. Because if there was, why me? Why was my family not like the Brady Bunch, the Partridge family? Why didn't I look like other children? Why was I so different? So my idea of God was non-existent. And here I am growing and I'm so full of rage and anger and hate. I have all these feelings and emotions that I didn't know were feelings and emotions, and I didn't know what to do. As I'm steady growing, all of that is growing with me, and it's getting darker and it's getting darker and it's getting darker. So I started running away from home, and I don't know what I'm running from, where I'm running to. All I know is I needed to run, not understanding that wherever I go, there I am. A guy pulled up to me and he, asked me why I was crying and was like, let me take you out to eat because you don't need to be out here alone. And as we're eating lunch, he's asking me these questions and I'm answering the questions, even though I'm blubbering all over the place, crying. He dropped me off, and every day he would come and pick me up, take me back out to lunch, ask me more questions. Then he started buying me clothes and talking about we gonna make money, how much he loves me, and he started introducing me to the bars. And in my mind, I'm thinking, this is this guy, this is this person who's going to love me, who's going to make sure no one ever hurts me again. We left the bar one night and went to his friend's house like we usually do. I didn't think nothing of it because this is what we usually do. But this time when I came to, his friend was on top of me having sex with me any way he wanted to. I'm looking for him, and finally when I see him with my eyes, he's looking at me like dirt under his shoes. He looked like the devil himself. He called me a bad name and told me to get his money. And I'm crying. I wanted my mom. I wanted to go home. I was only 15. When it was over, he grabbed me by my hair. He threw me in a car. He took me to this house that was a few blocks away. And when we walked in that house, there was other women. there that worked for him, and there was another lady there who they called the bottom, which dressed me and gave me a Valium and something to drink and told me if I tell the police, they were going to kill my mom, my brother, my sister. And at that time, I had a baby because I was very promiscuous, trying to find love in all the wrong places, and kill my son. And that they would cut me up and bury my body in different places around the state of Michigan where nobody would ever find me. At 15, I was taken on South Division here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, made to turn my first trick. I was caught up in that life for over 20 years. July 4th of 2000, I just didn't want to live no more. I didn't want to hurt. I just wanted to go to sleep and never wake up because the pain was so great. And I started doing drugs and alcohol so I didn't have to think and I didn't have to feel. Well, I remember mixing up all these drugs and drinking this alcohol because I knew if I did that, I would go to sleep and I'll never wake up and it'll be over. The pain would just be over. I remember as I was dying, this is always the hardest part for me. With the last breath that I had, I screamed, if there's a God in heaven, if you real, help me, man, help me. It's hard for me to explain this feeling I got like out of nowhere, but the hug that I never received from my parents, I felt this hug internally, and I knew I would be okay. I called my mom. They hadn't heard from me in years. They thought I was dead. She came and got me, took me to her house where I ate, I bathed, and I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I called the detox. I put myself in a detox. Then I went to a 30-day program. And from there, I went to a place called Rosehaven, which was run by the Dominican nuns. I stayed in that program, graduated that program, and became the first ever resident to become a staff. Then I was hired by the Grand Rapids Police Department. Now, I really didn't look for that job. That job found me. And I was hired at SWAP, which is Social Work and Police Partnership, to go right back out onto the streets and talk and mentor to the same women I got high with, and the same women, we had the same pimp. Back into institutions that used to house me, running groups and giving hope. God showed up in my life in places that I couldn't get into because of my criminal background history, but here I am with this light in this dark. It's so hard for me to describe the way God showed up in my life. I mean, opening doors or sending me to doors that I knew couldn't open, but they opened. In 2003, a young lady contacted me and she was like, Leslie, if you don't come get me, I'm going to step in front of this bus and kill myself. And I'm like, God, where do I take her? What do I do? And I heard clear as day right here. I'm like, my house? God said, yeah, because this ain't your house. Okay. I went and got her. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I had to do something. I got her. I brought her here. Next thing you know, here come another one. And here come another one. And here come another one. Here come all these women from the streets. And I don't know what I'm doing, but I know this is what I must do. In 2005, I solidified Sacred Beginnings. Sacred is between me and God. Mm-hmm. That was so sacred. And beginnings, me, you, anybody who wakes up, it's a start. It's a new beginning for all of us. So I named it Sacred Beginnings. We've helped thousands of women. I've lost track. This is a home. We have several homes for women who want to escape the life of prostitution, trafficking, whatever they want to call it. and come here and go through trauma, be reintroduced into society. November the 9th, we opened up Sacred Beginnings Home Base, which is a drop-in center. They can walk right off the street and come and get all the services there that's needed. We are also the very first survivor-led, peer-mentored program in the state of Michigan. Many have graduated and went on to be social workers. They've reunited with their children. Whatever their dream is or was, that's what they've become.
Amen. This is such a powerful testimony, Leslie. I just have to ask you, like, because I know that what you went through, and there is so much more to her story. You've got to get a copy of the book. It is life-changing. But I want you to talk to us about the importance of, for people who haven't been in that lifestyle and have an understanding, how important is it, though, for us to try to understand and to reach out?
It's very important. Many victims, we don't trust. It's hard for us to trust someone because the people who loved us and were supposed to care for us and protect us didn't. So our outlook is what makes you any different. It's very important because these are human beings. This is someone's daughter. This is someone's mother, granddaughter, sister, brother, whatever. It's very important to reach out and educate yourselves, because this has been happening since the beginning of time, and it continues to just go on. And now it's just now getting the recognition that it needs, so people can go out and assist. Whatever God has you do. Don't second guess God. Do it, because it's the way God, to me, the way God has his army set up. We got people who pray. We got people who go do this. I mean, he has so many people doing so many things for his kingdom. And when I look back and say, why me? I'm Black, white, Indian, and Puerto Rican, because those would be the nations that I would be ministering to. Right. Why me? Who better than me to go right back out in the darkness and wage war?
Amen.
But behind me, there's very many prayer warriors that keep me prayed up, because there's times that I don't think I can just fight another day, but I wake up and boom, there I go. So it's very important in God's ministry for people to ask God, what do I do now? And to wait for God to tell you what to do. Don't jump out and say, well, I'm just going to lay hands and pray over her. No, you're not going to lay hands, because do you know how many people laid hands before you on her? So it's very important to ask God, which way do I go? Amen. What do I do?
Yes. Right. Leslie, you know, your life was so broken before Christ. How did God bring about healing for you? And you mentioned forgiving yourself. I'm sure there was a lot of different people you had to forgive, but how did God bring that about in your life?
I was doing home health care, and that's in the book, How I Got That Job. But I had a client who was 100 years old, and I'll never forget, as I was taking care of her, she never did speak. But this one time she grabbed my wrist, and she said, you have to forgive them. I knew exactly what she meant. But how do you do that? How do you forgive someone who's raped you, who's beaten you, who's left you for dead? How do you forgive that? All I know is I kept praying until I believed that prayer. I had to forgive my cousin who molested me, my dad who would beat my mom, who was never there for me. I even had to forgive my pimp and Johns. I had to forgive all those people in order to set myself free.
Yes.
And I did just that. It took a while, but I did. And through all the forgiveness, God started opening me all these doors that I couldn't get in because of my background. But God said the last shall be first.
Yeah.
And he allowed me to go through everything I went through in order to go back and get the others. Because how can you lead someone where you've never been? Yeah. It's hard. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy. But he did just that. And he showed up in my life so many times with bringing my children back, with rebuilding my family relationships with my mom and my sister and my brother. Now my mom is the wind beneath my wings. I mean, so many beautiful things have happened where it couldn't have been nobody but God. There's no such thing for me as luck. No, there's not. Yeah. He showed me. And for that, I'm forever grateful.